Hey there guys, music fan here. How you guys doing? Don't have that much time left. I'm gonna go to a quick track by track review of U2's No Line on the Horizon here. So let's get through all these tracks because there's a lot I have to say about these tracks. So first track, No Line on the Horizon. When Get on Your Boots was first released, when it first came out, unlike a majority of the public, or maybe some part of the public, I love this track. I really, really did love to Get on Your Boots. I thought it was very, very reminiscent of U2 in the 1990s. I thought it was awesome. So when I first bought this album, and when I first heard the title track for the very first time, I thought it was great. I thought it was still to this day, it's one of my favorite tracks off this album. I thought this album, I thought this track was really evocative of what the rest of the album would sound like. That it would sound very new, it would sound very bold, experimental, very great, fantastic, like that Octune Baby, adventure-esque style. Not necessarily the European style per se, but No Line on the Horizon, that track got really my hopes up. By the time we get to Magnificent, though, the second track, at first, initially, I was very let down. I had read articles from the band and their producers that this track was billed to be this album's version of Beautiful Day, and I was expecting something very along the lines of Beautiful Day. But the first time I heard this song, I was kind of underwhelmed. I was kind of very disappointed that this album sounded a little bit odd and a little bit shrill. At least those were my first impressions. I thought that opening drum beat sounded very weird and off. However, after hearing this song for the next few months, I then got to like this song. That song then suddenly grew on me, and now it's one of my favorite tracks off this album, and I think it's very fantastic. The way Bono and his really open voice in this particular track is just amazing. It's phenomenal the way he sings on this song. And something that I didn't mention in my review was that Adam Clayton is a saving grace on this album. This album is possibly his best, if not one of his best, bass work on this album. His bass playing here is phenomenal. It's fantastic. And Magnificent is a prime example of that. Like, his bass playing is just so fluid, with just his very melodic, almost dancey textures on this album, on that track in particular, and it's fantastic. I love it. Magnificent has really started off really to be very meh for me, but over the years it's grown to be a really great song, and I really now love Magnificent. I really love this track. Moment of Surrender. This is like the closest representation to the band's original concept for this album. This is really one of the most emotional tracks off this album, in which Brian Eno, I think, if I've seen in the interview correctly, he mentions of creating this very odd drum beat, and the rest of the band kind of building a song on top of that. I really didn't understand this song in particular until I heard it, or rather I saw it on the band's performance in the Rose Bowl, on the Rose Bowl DVD of the 360 tour, and after that I really kind of gotten a new appreciation of this track, and even though this is not my favorite U2 song ever, it's possibly one of my favorites off this particular album. Even though it's nearly 6 minutes long, it's a track that is very emotional, and it's a track that's very deep into the heart, and that's what you get with this particular track. Also, Edge's guitar textures on here is superb. Unknown Caller. I first, also like the other songs, I first kind of despised this song. I first really hated it. But then as I kept hearing this song more, I started to really like it, and it's a great song in terms of its ambience and its ambition. And I love how the opening chords sounded like when the Edge plays these really soft, delicate guitar notes. Also with the sound of birds flying over the band's Riyadh recording space in Fez, Morocco, and that stellar, awesome guitar solo at the end. This song almost really sounds operatic and conceptual. Really, this whole album conceptually speaks of a story of a traffic cop going through this epiphanic journey. And even though this is not a concept album in theory, this album's lyrics has themes to that, so it might as well be the closest U2 will ever get to a very conceptual um, Pink Floyd, even though they're both completely different bands, don't get me wrong. Um, but yeah, Unknown Caller is really a great song. It's a really fantastic song, and it really came of its own live. It was really kind of an awesome song live. And again, not amongst my favorite songs, but it's amongst my favorites off this particular album. I'll Go Crazy If I Don't Go Crazy Tonight. Kind of insane title. Um, I heard that will.i.am from the Black Eyed Peas was going to guest star on this album, and he does with this particular song. Right, like a few months ago, before this album came out, when I started to hear that this album was going to be the most experimental since Achtung Baby, when I had this impression that it was going to be Zoo Station, Discotheque, Mysterious Ways around this particular album, I heard will.i.am's name mentioned, and I thought, oh my gosh, he's going to bring, well, of course there was the Black Eyed Peas, and I'm not the biggest Black Eyed Peas fan. In fact, their later portions of their more electronic sound I thought was pfft. But I thought his contributions to here was going to be very interesting, and I thought that he was going to lend these very crazy electro dance beats to the band's sound, which only at first supported my expectation that this album was going to sound like Achtung Baby, but instead he plays more keyboards and pianos on this album than what I have been led to be suggested, and he contributes to I'll Go Crazy If I Don't Crazy Tonight. And at first, my initial impression of this track was, nope, hate this song, sounds too much like City of Blinding Lights. Um, I have gotten to like this song over the years, and it sounds really cool. I do love that it has this very jumpy quality, but really the downside to this song is Bono's lyrics. He starts to his political. Not that I have a problem with Bono's, but I'm really supportive of his social activism. Like, and believe me, I'm behind his works to cure AIDS in Africa, to bring HIV/AIDS drugs to Africa, and also to really forgive the poorest of nations their debts to more bigger countries. Like, no, believe me, I'm completely in support of Bono's activism. Like, really, I am. The thing is that with the artistic version, the artistic vision of a song like I'll Go Crazy, it sometimes gets a little bit jarring at points when he infuses his political speeches into song lyrics. And while I don't have a problem with Bono using parts of his political speeches on U2 lyrics, sometimes it comes almost to the point where it's a little bit jarring, and that's what it kind of comes towards this particular song. And I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but it comes to mixed results. Get on your boots. Again, I bring up the assertion that I used to really love this song, and no, not used to love this song. Like, I mean, to this day, whenever I need a kick of energy, whenever I need a, like a song, to walk to the subway, when I need something to pump me up, this is the track to do so for me. Um, Not many people like this song. This is often billed as U2's worst ever song, and I won't pretend to not know where they're coming from because I can understand why um, why people would think so. And it's their opinions, and they have the right to their own opinions. But for me, Get on Your Boots, and yeah, I won't consider this to be my favorite U2 song ever, not by a long shot, but it's still a song that I still have a soft spot for. Yeah, I have a soft spot for Get On Your Boots. Whatever, I mean, I don't really mind whatever comments you make on the comment section below, but you know, Get On Your Boots, like, I mean, again, it's not the best U2 song ever, but it's not a bad song either. I don't see why all the fuss about this particular song, and I mean, I call it one of U2's most interesting, and sure, it doesn't really work in some places, um, but for a song that really tried to hit the Vertigo thing once again, and even though I do like Vertigo way more than this song, um, this is a song that I still have a soft spot for. You know, I really do have a soft spot for this particular song. Um, yeah. Stand-up comedy. This track, it's not the best either. I mean, the highlight is, of course, Adam Clayton's bass playing, which is superb, which is awesome. The only real disappointment here is Edge's guitar solo, and I mean, he does great. I mean, it's a very simple slide guitar part, and especially that part where he starts to play that guitar solo, it sounds like as if like he's drilling some kind of drill bit into something, and the way that accompanies Adam's rolling bass playing and Larry's drumming is just awesome. It's amazing. I do wish Edge would have fleshed out that solo a little bit more. I do kind of wish he would have improvised a little bit on that particular solo, at least for me. But it's not one of my favorite songs, but it's all right. It's a song that I can still listen to, and it can still get a pass. Um, Fez-Being Born. I really wish this song was performed by the band live. Again, not my favorite U2 song ever, but it's a song I really, really like off this album. Like, I really wish this song would have been a perfect opener for the 360 tour at the time, and I was even imagining that in my mind before the tour began. Excuse me. Fez-Being Born. I mean, yeah, the lyrics really don't work in some places. Head first, then foot, then heart's a tail. Yeah, I really don't get the lyrical writing here. It's kind of spotty. But musically, though, it's still a rockin' song. It's still very rock, and that's really the really awesome thing about this song. In fact, I think I heard that this was originally going to be the opener. That would have been interesting. Like, I mean, of course, I have my iPod. I can make the playlist, and I have. But yeah, Fez-Being Born. I mean, not the best U2 song ever, but it's one of my favorites off this album. White as Snow. It's not an overtly a political track, but it's a very probably U2 at their most storytelling. Like, it talks about this soldier who goes into either Iraq or Afghanistan, finds himself really in a barren war zone, and him being exploded by a mine bomb and just slowly dying in the process. And this album isn't really that overtly political as the other albums are, but it's very politically enigmatic. That's the term I can use to describe this song. I think the song's melody borrows from some kind of Moroccan hymn. I forget the name of it, but it borrows from that. Has a really cool open, operatic, deep vocal performance from Bono, and it's pretty cool for me to hear that. Personally, I prefer the B-side outtake track from the sessions, Winter. Not the brothers version, I prefer the band version of Winter. I think personally that is much more image driven and way more evocative in this particular, in place of this song than White as Snow, at least in my opinion. Also, this track is also very folksy, as I think I hear like a, it's not a mandolin, but it's some kind of baby guitar thing going on in the background. At least I think so. Yeah, not really my favorite song. I can still listen to it, passively, and it would not bother me. Breathe, the second to last track of this album. Awesome drumming from Larry Mullen Jr. Like, I love that beginning part where he is just bashing away on the drums, and then in comes the Edge, with his awesome guitar. Again, like I'll Go Crazy, this song, Bono's lyrical writing on this song, like on I'll Go Crazy, is also a little bit spotty at points. I won't just buy anyone's cockatoo. Why would I invite a complete stranger into my home? I'm coming down with some new Asian virus. Yeah, his lyrical writing here is not really one of his best, in my opinion at least. It's kind of spotty in some places. However, musically, it's still great. It's still fantastic. I love it. The last track, Cedars of Lebanon, I thought was going to be very Mothers of the Disappeared-esque. I really thought it was going to take the same emotional vein as that track, but instead it comes out a bit more subdued. It comes out a little more ambient and atmospheric and experimental, and Bono making these very news corresponding lyrics that accompanies this particular track. And the most interesting thing about this track is the enigmatic lyrical writing at the end. Choose your enemies carefully, or else they'll define you. They're not there at the beginning, but when your story ends, gonna last with you longer than your friends. It's a very enigmatic closer to this album, and it's really not the most overwhelming ending of all U2 albums ever. And I like this album because I love to listen to it in Big Shock, the winter. I think, in my opinion, this album goes fantastic with wintertime. Just the ambience of how winter is, the snow coming down, the cold air. I feel this album suits that particular season better, again, at least in my opinion. My favorite song would have to be, sorry U2 fans, but it would have to be Get On Your Boots. Still really like this track. My least favorite would have to be, I don't know, maybe White as Snow, my least favorite. Anyway, yeah, this is my track-by-track review of No Line in the Horizon. Leave your comments in the comment section below, and that's it. Take care, guys. See you later.